Hello and welcome back to Niche Tea, where we talk about drama happening in communities you may not be a part of. Last time we talked about the 4-year-long battle that YouTube creator Primink has been dealing with because he made a video that got like 10 million views about how a mother and daughter were basically faking the daughter's social presence and buying her followers, and they have been relentlessly, allegedly, going after him in every way humanly possible since then. Since I made that video, another very large YouTube creator named Mudahar has made a video about this as well. Regardless about how you may feel about Mudahar, I know he can be very polarizing. I would highly encourage people to go check this video out, watch it, engage with it, like it, that kind of stuff. If only because by engaging with it and the video getting larger, that makes it more likely that YouTube will pay attention just generally because of how big he is himself. But also, the better that video does, the more likely other very large YouTubers will make videos about it. Usually stuff happens if it gets to that level, so that's the best option if we want to get Primink some actual help. I also want to really encourage you again to go check out Primink himself. He truly is so funny. I love watching him, and I was devastated when he stopped uploading. Today, we're going back into the convention world because apparently 2024 is just the year to beat Dashcon when it comes to conventions. We're talking about Pokeverse in the Philippines. Background is really simple. Pokeverse is a fan convention that took place, as I said, in the Philippines. It's a by fans, for fans kind of thing. People are naturally a little bit more wary when it comes to fan conventions for reasons I think you might expect. The biggest being, of course, that they're unrelated to the actual companies that hold the IP for whatever the thing is the convention is centering on, in this case Pokemon. So you're going to see a lot of like close enough imagery and wording because they have to be careful from a copyright standpoint. But also, anything organized by fans means that there's very likely less organization and significantly less funding behind it, and that can lead to chaos. Quickly before I continue, I want to say thank you so much to everyone who donated to the GoFundMe I was supporting as part of Operation Olive Branch. I've adopted another one alongside another creator, and this one is supporting a team of artists and their families. It's 15 people in total. There's been a little bit of traction, and I am so grateful. There's still a long way to go. These people's homes have been completely destroyed at this point. You can find all the resources on my profile. If you do have any ability to support, that would be hugely appreciated. So, what happened? Pokeverse Philippines ran this past weekend, May 31st through June 2nd. 2 days ago, a Twitter user named Rita, who attended the event, posted a mega thread of everything they experienced while there because of how upsetting this experience was to them and how much they were kind of blown away by the shenanigans going on. And that thing is currently sitting at like nearly 7 million views. The response to this thread has been hilarious. Immediately, comparisons to Dashcon, specifically the ball pit, the classic con failure imagery. Having now gone through the entire thread and any other offshoots that are included in that and any articles related and Discord and Facebook and like literally anything I can find, while there were absolutely issues, and we will go through that, to me, when I think about some of the other things that I've covered, like Readers Take Denver or even the Wonka thing, this isn't quite that bad. It's not great, don't get me wrong. I would still put it on the list of shitty cons from 2024. I would just put it probably lower on the list than most of the others that I've covered. So let's go through it. Let's start with the good. There were things that were done well, and I want to give credit where credit's due. One is that it had a real venue in a real convention space. Good job. A lot of people don't make that. 2, and for me the biggest standout, is the headliners. The first being Veronica Taylor, who was the voice of Ash in the original English version of the series in 1998 through like 2006. That's cool. And the other was Jason Page, the guy who sung the Pokemon song. That's cool. The person who made this mega thread, Rita, actually won a contest that had been previously held and came in second. The top 3 people got free entry to the convention and got to sing with Jason Page. It was a singing contest. That's very cool. And then the third thing I want to put solidly in the good category is, to me, this was a good faith effort to put on a good event. When I looked into that Willy Wonka event that happened earlier in the year, that was a scam. That was, let's lure people in with misleading imagery and an idea of what's going to happen and then give them something that's as cheap as humanly possible that we were able to make. This is not that, and that's why I wouldn't categorize it the same way. Again, I'm not saying that there weren't issues. There absolutely were. But to me, these are issues born from inexperience and are things that can be easily rectified for future iterations if they want to continue holding this in future years. So we've covered the good things. Let's move on to the not so good things. Starting with the things I think very legitimately need to be addressed if they ever want to hold this again. The absolute biggest thing is organization and communication. Like, so many of the issues were related to that specifically. People who had comp tickets like Rita didn't get them until midnight the night before. I want to say every day had a delayed opening, and at least one of them, they didn't notify people until they were already there. So people had to wait just to do nothing for an additional literally 2 hours before they could go in. The ticketing process was not at all clear, both for the convention goers and the staff, it seems like. Several people said that finding where you needed to be to get what so that you could actually get in was very confusing. Rita said the wristbands for admission weren't given out properly by the people at ticketing working the event. Usually you can attend either an entire convention or individual days if you want to, and that was the case here. So you need uniquely identifiable passes for each day so that staff can keep an eye on who's got what pass and make sure that like somebody who bought for Friday isn't still here on Sunday. For Pokeverse, they used wristbands with different colors. It was supposed to be a different color for each day, and that got completely lost. Like Rita got 2 of the same color in theirs. By day 3, they ran out of wristbands, so they just started using stars on people's hands. It's just disorganized. Leading up to the event, the map setup kept changing and people were confused by that. And then day of, the map didn't fully match what people were seeing in the event, so they were confused by that. Rita, who was there to sing with Jason Page, was very confused about where they were supposed to be when, wasn't given any rehearsal with Jason, wasn't told they had to perform multiple times, and was very thrown off by that. Vendors for Artist Alley were given little to no communication leading up to the event and at the event. The schedule kept changing, both because of the late starts for some days, but also events were removed and added, and it was very confusing. There was a game that people in Artist Alley were supposed to be playing, and like none of them knew. Someone from staff had to like walk back over with people who were playing it to explain to the vendors what was going on and what they had to do. It's just messy. Second big issue, there was clearly a big lack of staff, specifically coordinators and operations. You need a ton of that for these types of events, and having that would have made things a lot easier. At one point, Rita claims they had to act as staff to help with some of the line management for one of the events, and that's insane. Third big issue for me is related to promotional materials, and specifically referring to 2 things that were mentioned in the mega thread. One is that generally there were people going around filming the whole thing a lot, like intrusively, filming people without consent, filming unaccompanied children, filming in areas where people were changing into their cosplays because there wasn't a private area for people to do that. See point 1 on organization. In that game I mentioned with the vendors in the Artist Alley, it's usually a game where you get like a stamp or a signature for buying a certain amount from each vendor with the goal of, getting sales for these people who've paid to be there. But in this one, apparently instead you had to post a bunch of stuff to social media. So you had to do promotion for the event. I don't like that. And then the fourth big thing was cost. This was pretty expensive, especially for the Philippines. If you wanted a VIP pass, it was $100 a day. Generally, the VIP pass gave you merch, front row seats to panels, and photo ops and signatures from the headliners. But still, according to Rita, it's about twice the cost of conventions normally in the area. The big thing, though, is that they specifically say that part of the reason that the fee is so high is because they have to pay for these international headliners to come in. Veronica did it for free.
Why the fuck you lying?
So those are the bad, shady things that need to be fixed. Then we have things that are funny or not a big deal to me. First up, the venue, way too big for this. Too big for the number of attendees, too big for the number of vendors, too big for the number of attractions, just too big. Probably too expensive, which is probably why the tickets were too expensive. This is probably why you're seeing rooms full of random inflatables that have nothing to do with Pokemon, and why the place looks so goddamn empty in every shot. My guess is they dramatically overestimated the attendance. This is why when you put on these types of events, they recommend you start small. I will say I'm very much enjoying the memeing and clowning going on with the pictures though, so silver lining. We also have Ravioli Man. This was a guy reportedly walking around smelling absolutely awful, holding a jar full of ravioli that was covered in sauce and like licking the sauce off of the jar. I'm sure this man was annoying and disconcerting to a few at least, but he's a troll. He literally wrote Ravioli Man on his shirt. He's just an asshole. Welcome to conventions. Rita did say that it took a while for security to get this guy out, probably because he wasn't a present threat, but I can see that being annoying. It's pretty funny though. And then lastly, there's a ton of concern about these Make-A-Wish kids who were there because it was unsafe for them to be there. Being at the convention was very likely their wish. It's something they choose to do alongside their parents. Yes, there's obviously a risk to them that they are fully informed before they go. In the US, apparently travel accounts for nearly 80% of wishes. More than half specifically wish to go to Disney, which is way more crowded than this was. Those kids probably came because they're Pokemon fans and they wanted to meet the headliners. The only thing realistically to be sad about there is that it probably wasn't as fun of an event as it could have been for them. So all in all, I do believe that this event is salvageable if they put it on again. It's just a question of whether or not they can implement the feedback for next time.